Shattered glass and silent hearts. The city stretched below like a carpet of diamonds, but Damien Cross saw none of it. He stood at the window of his penthouse suite, whiskey glass trembling in his hand, watching the amber liquid catch the light. 3 years. 3 years since Victoria's laughter had echoed through that video. 3 years since she'd shown the world, or at least his entire executive team, exactly how broken he was. The glass slipped from his fingers, shattering against the imported Italian marble. Golden liquid spread like spilled promises across the pristine white floor. Damien stared at the mess, unable to move, unable to breathe. Even something as simple as holding a glass had become evidence of his inadequacy. "Mr. Cross?" The voice was soft, concerned rather than alarmed. Damien turned to find a woman standing in his bedroom doorway, fresh towels in her arms, dark eyes wide with worry. The new housekeeper. He'd forgotten the agency was sending someone today. "Get out." His voice came out rough, broken, just like him. But she didn't run. Instead, she set down the towels carefully and reached for the cleaning cart in the hallway. "You'll cut yourself," she said simply, kneeling beside the shattered glass with practiced efficiency. Damien watched, stunned, as this stranger, this employee, cleaned up his mess with steady hands while his own continued to shake. Her movements were precise, methodical. She'd done this before, he realized. Not cleaning up spilled drinks, but handling disasters with calm competence. "There," she said after a moment, depositing the glass shards in her waste bin. "No harm done. These things happen to everyone." "Not to me," Damien heard himself say. "Nothing happens to me anymore." She looked up at him then, really looked, and he saw something flicker in those warm brown eyes. Recognition. Not of him as Damien Cross, CEO of Cross Innovations, worth billions and featured in Fortune 500, she recognized something deeper, something that made his chest tighten. "To everyone," she said softly, just in different ways. She left quietly, closing the door behind her, and Damien found himself staring at the space where she'd been, wondering why her words had felt like understanding instead of empty platitude. Olivia Reed hadn't planned to being a housekeeper. With her background in art restoration and a master's degree from NYU, she should have been in a museum somewhere, bringing faded masterpieces back to life. But life had different plans. After James died, after the accident that took both him and their unborn daughter, the medical bills and funeral costs had taken everything. She'd needed work immediately, and the placement agency said Cross paid well and asked few questions. Perfect for someone running from memories that felt like ghosts. She expected arrogance from a billionaire, maybe inappropriate comments or wandering hands like her last employer. She hadn't expected to see her own pain reflected in those haunted gray eyes, the same look she saw in her mirror every morning when she forced herself to keep breathing, keep moving, keep pretending life still had meaning. "Everything okay?" Margaret, the house manager, asked when Olivia returned to the kitchen. She was a stern woman in her 60s, who ran the household with military precision. "Fine, just startled, Mr. Cross." Margaret snorted. "That man startles at shadows. 3 years I've worked here, and he's like a ghost himself. No visitors, no women, no life. Just work and this empty palace." "No women?" Olivia found herself asking. "Not since the divorce. Whatever that woman did to him, it broke something fundamental. Man's got everything money can buy, but lives like he's serving a sentence." Olivia thought about those trembling hands, the shattered glass, and the way he said, "Not to me," like perfection was a prison he couldn't escape. She understood prisons. She'd built her own after the accident, walls of routine and work to keep the grief at bay. The next morning she knocked firmly before entering his bedroom. He was already gone, but the bed looked barely touched. On the nightstand sat a note in precise handwriting. "Thank you for yesterday. I apologize for my rudeness." Olivia smiled despite herself. So the haunted billionaire had manners. Their dance continued for weeks. She'd clean, he'd avoid. When their paths crossed, he'd nod stiffly while she offered gentle smiles. But slowly, subtly, things shifted. He started leaving his office door open while she worked. She'd hum softly, old songs James used to play on his guitar, and notice how the tension in Damien's shoulders eased at the sound. "You have training," he said one afternoon, making her jump. She hadn't heard him approach. "You were an art restorer for 8 years. Why stop?" The question hung between them. She could lie, fabricate something simple, but those gray eyes held their own wounds, and somehow that made honesty feel safer. "My fiancé died, car accident. I was pregnant." The words came out flat, emotionless. She'd practiced saying them without breaking. The medical intervention, the funeral, the legal fees, it took everything. Art restoration jobs wanted portfolios, references, time I didn't have. This was faster. "I'm sorry." 2 words, but the weight behind them, the genuine understanding, made her throat tight. "We do what we must to survive," she managed. "Yes," he said quietly, "we do." He turned to leave, then paused. "The humming. Don't stop. It's the first peaceful sound this place has heard in years." After that, their interactions deepened. He'd ask about her day, she'd inquire about his work. Safe topics, but underneath ran a current of something neither dared name. "You don't eat enough," Olivia observed one evening, finding him in his office at midnight, surrounded by empty coffee cups but no food. "I forget." "That's not forgetting, that's avoiding." His eyes sharpened. "I don't pay you to analyze me." "No, you pay me to maintain your home. You're part of this home." The logic made him almost smile. Almost. "I suppose you'll insist on feeding me now." "Would that be terrible?" He studied her for a long moment. I eat alone." "So do I," she said simply. "Maybe we could eat alone together." It became their ritual. She'd prepare simple meals, nothing fancy, just good food made with care, and they'd sit in his massive kitchen, not talking much, but filling the silence with something more than words. He started looking less gaunt, less haunted. She started humming more, remembering there was music beyond grief. "Why technology?" she asked one night over pasta carbonara. "Control," he answered without hesitation. "Code does what you tell it. No surprises, no betrayals, just logic and outcomes. But no heart. Hearts are liabilities." "James was a programmer," she offered. "He used to say code was beautiful because it could help people. That technology without humanity was just expensive mathematics." "James was your fiancé?" She nodded. 3 years next month. "Do you still love him?" "I'll always love who he was, but I'm learning to let go of who we might have been together. It's the what could have beens that destroy us, don't you think?" "Yes," he said roughly. "God, yes." That night, sitting in the dim kitchen light, Damien told her about Victoria, about the woman who seemed perfect, who'd played her part flawlessly until she didn't. About performance anxiety that had developed from stress and her mocking response. About the video she'd sent him during a board meeting, her laughing about his inadequacy with her lover, discussing him like he was defective merchandise. She said, "I wasn't man enough for anyone," Damien said, his knuckles white around his water glass. 3 years and I still hear her laughing. Olivia reached across the table, covering his clenched fist with her warm hand. She was cruel and wrong. Being unable to perform under that kind of psychological abuse doesn't make you less of a man, it makes you human. Humans heal. I just stay broken. Maybe you just haven't found the right person to heal with." The words hung between them, heavy with possibility. Damien pulled away, standing abruptly. "I shouldn't have told you that." "Damien!" Her name on her lips stopped him. "Being broken doesn't make you worthless. It makes you real. Real people heal, and they heal better when they're not alone." He fled to his office, but Olivia noticed he left the door open. A crack, barely noticeable, but there nonetheless. An invitation to keep trying, to keep reaching. As she cleaned up their dinner dishes, Olivia found herself humming again. Not songs of grief, but something new. Something that sounded almost like hope. The call came 3 days later. Olivia was organizing Damien's closet when his phone rang. She glanced at the screen and froze. Victoria. "Damien," she called, her voice carefully neutral. He appeared in the doorway, saw his phone in her hand, saw the name. His face went white. "You don't have to," she started. But he took the phone, something determined in his eyes. "Yes, I do." He answered on speaker. "What do you want, Victoria?" "Damien, finally!" The voice was honeyed poison, artificially sweet. "I've been trying to reach you for months. How are you, darling?" "I'm not your darling. What do you want?" "So cold. But then again, you always were, weren't you? In every way that mattered." Olivia saw his jaw clench and moved to leave, but he caught her hand, holding tight. "If you called to insult me, this conversation is over." "Wait, please. I'm sorry. Old habits." Victoria's laugh was nervous now. "I'm calling because I need to see you, to explain things properly." "There's nothing to explain. You made yourself perfectly clear in that video you sent me." "That was a mistake. I was drunk, angry. You have to understand, living with a man who wouldn't, perform, made me crazy." "So you slept with my business partner and recorded yourself mocking me?" "Yes, the picture of sanity." "I'm sorry. How many times do I have to say it? I'm sorry I hurt you. Sorry I wasn't patient." "Why now, Victoria? Why are you sorry now?" A pause, then quieter. "Because I understand now. What I threw away. What we had. We had nothing. You made that very clear." "That's not true. We had potential. We could have worked through it if you'd just tried harder, seen more doctors, done something instead of shutting down completely." Olivia felt Damien's hand tremble in hers. She squeezed back, grounding him. "I did try," he said quietly. "I saw 5 different doctors. I went to therapy 3 times a week. I did everything to fix what you insisted was broken. But you know what I learned? I wasn't broken. Our marriage was. You can't perform for someone who sees you as a failure before you even begin." "Damien, what kind of man can't even get it up for his own wife?" "Your words, Victoria. Maybe if you were a real man, I wouldn't need to find satisfaction elsewhere. Also yours. Should I continue?" "I was hurt. I said things. You were cruel. There's a difference." "Please, Damien, I made mistakes, but so did you. You were so focused on work, so distant. Can't we try again? I've changed, I've grown, and I know you haven't been with anyone since me. We could take it slow, rebuild what we had." "I'm with someone." The words hung in the air. Olivia's heart stopped. "You're what? Who? Since when?" "That's none of your business." "None of you— Damien, I'm your wife." "Ex-wife. You made sure of that when you served me divorce papers at my father's funeral." "Does she know, this new woman? Does she know about your problem?" Damien looked at Olivia, his eyes soft. "She knows everything, and she doesn't see it as a problem. She sees it as part of my journey, part of who I am." "She's after your money." "She didn't know I had money when we met. She saw me, not my bank account. That's the difference between her and you, Victoria. She sees a whole person, not a performance review. This is ridiculous. You can't just... Goodbye, Victoria. Don't call again. He hung up, the phone clattering onto the dresser. For a moment neither moved. You told her about me, Olivia said softly. Was that okay? I should have asked first, but I needed her to know. Needed her to understand she has no power over me anymore. Olivia silenced him with a kiss, pouring all her pride, admiration, and growing love into the contact. When they parted, he was breathless. You stood up to her. I stood up for us, he corrected. For what we're building together. And what are we building? I don't know yet, he admitted. But for the first time in 3 years, I want to find out, even if it's scary, especially then. You make me brave, Olivia. You were always brave. You just forgot for a while. The news broke 4 days later. Someone had photographed them together. Damien helping Olivia with groceries, laughing at something she'd said, looking happier than anyone had seen him in years. The photo made the business blogs first, then mainstream media. Tech billionaires' new romance with household staff. From socialite to service worker. Cross's unexpected rebound. CEO's Cinderella story. Real love or publicity stunt? Damien found the articles spread across his desk, courtesy of his concerned PR team. Olivia found him there, surrounded by printed evidence of their private happiness turned public spectacle. They make it sound sordid, he said without looking up. Like I'm some predator taking advantage of you. Or like I'm a gold digger taking advantage of you, Olivia countered, sitting beside him. Neither is true. The board is concerned. My lawyers are concerned. Everyone's concerned except the 2 people who actually matter. Then maybe we should remind them who matters. He looked at her. What do you mean? You've been hiding for 3 years, Damien. Maybe it's time to stop. To live your life without shame or fear of judgment. You want me to go public? To parade our relationship for the media? No. I want you to live authentically, to stop letting fear of others' opinions keep you isolated in this tower. She took his hands. You're one of the most powerful men in this city. Use that power to show them that love isn't about status or appearances. It's about connection, healing, and choosing each other despite the obstacles. And if they tear us apart, if they dig into our pasts, expose our pain, then we face it together, like we faced everything else. The board meeting was scheduled for Friday. Damien tried to prepare Olivia for the sharks in expensive suits, but she had her own strategy. You want to what? Damien stared at her. Cook for them. Show them who I really am through what I do best. Olivia, these people dine at Michelin-starred restaurants. They're not going to be impressed by food made with love? By someone who cares about nourishment beyond appearances? She smiled. Maybe that's exactly what they need. And so Olivia arrived at the boardroom with containers of her grandmother's recipes. Not fancy food, but honest food. Comfort elevated by skill and genuine care. The board members were skeptical at first, then curious, then disarmed. As they ate, she talked about restoration. Not just of art, but of people. About how broken things could be made whole again with patience, skill, and love. Mr. Cross has been broken, she said simply. So have I. But together, we're learning that broken pieces can create something more beautiful than perfection ever was. That's not a liability for this company. It's proof that your CEO understands resilience, healing, and the strength it takes to be vulnerable. The room was silent. Then Margaret Chen, the toughest board member, spoke. 3 years ago, we watched Mr. Cross weather a personal catastrophe with dignity. We've also watched Tim slowly disappear into his work, losing the passion that made this company great. In the past months, he's come back to life. Projects are innovative again. His leadership has returned to form. If that's because of you, Miss Reed, then I'd say you're exactly what this company needs its CEO to have. One by one, the other board members nodded agreement. That night, back in Damien's penthouse, they stood at the window overlooking the city. The same view, but everything had changed. "Thank you," Damien said softly, "for fighting for us, for believing we were worth it." "Always," Olivia said. "We're worth it, even on the hard days, especially then." He turned her to face him. "I love you, Olivia Reed, completely, desperately, in ways that still terrify me, but also make me feel more alive than I've been in years. I love you too, Damien Cross, patiently, steadily, with all my broken pieces reaching for all of yours." He kissed her then, deep and sure, no longer afraid of inadequacy because she'd taught him that love wasn't about performance, it was about presence, vulnerability, and choosing each other every single day. Later, as they lay together in the darkness, Damien whispered, "I'm still scared, of failing you, of not being enough." "Good," Olivia murmured. "Fear means it matters, and I'm scared too, of losing this, of grief returning. But we'll be scared together, healing together, building something real from our broken pieces." "Together," he repeated, the word a promise. "Together," she confirmed. Outside, the city glittered with a million stories of love and loss, hope and heartbreak. But inside, two wounded souls had found something precious, proof that the most broken hearts, when held with care, could beat stronger than they ever had before. And in that truth, they found not just healing, but home.